Welcome back to Connections. I'm your host, Michael Forman, and today's episode is all about how to build a business, a reputation, and a legacy by showing up with purpose and generosity. My guest is the author of NCG Factor, a powerhouse framework that stands for networking, connecting, and giving. He's on a mission to help professionals stop showing up and throwing up in sales conversations. And today, start building authentic relationships that open doors, close deals, and create real impact. From mastering LinkedIn the right way to becoming indispensable in your career or your personal life and your personal life. We're going deep on how to sell without selling, connect without faking it, and lead with value instead of ego. If you're ready to learn about how to network like a pro, connect like a human, and grow your business with intention, you're in the right place. So let's start. I would like to welcome Larry Kaufman. He is the author of the book I just mentioned. Larry, welcome to the podcast and give us a little bit about your background.
Michael, thank you. Very nice to meet you. And I love that East Coast. The way that you say my last name is not the way that I introduce myself. I'm
Okay.
Larry Kaufman, but I like the way you say it better. Great to meet you. I'm Illinois born and I've lived here all my life actually. And so I would say I am a salesperson from the time I was in college to present, even though I'm in leadership. I'm always a salesperson, but I'm not an in your face salesperson. And I've been in all types of industries. But I think we are very similar in our approaches to networking, building relationships. I think we're going to talk very similar speak today. And I would say that if you were to look at me, I'm a giver, connector, I'm a global speaker, LinkedIn expert, and a business leader. And I'll give you a little personal, married 36 years coming up Friday this week. I don't know why she stays with me, but I'm glad she does. And I have two children in their 20s. Hopefully, they'll be leaving the home soon. I'm working on that. But other than that, everything's great.
That sounds terrific. I see a kinship with what we talk about. I too, by the way, have been married 36 years 2 weeks ago. So we're the same in that regard. Do you believe that everybody is a salesperson? Everybody is the face of the company.
I think a lot of things that we do in general, everyone has to sell, right? You have to sell yourself in whatever role you're in when you interview for a job. And so I think that whatever capacity, definitely if you're in a sales role, and sometimes people who are in a sales role are really not salespeople, right? We've touched that world. We work with salespeople. Some survive, some don't. It's a hard job. Post COVID, even more difficult. But Michael, I would say everyone is a salesperson in some way to meet that significant other. There's a bit of a sales job.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes you don't close that deal. So,
No, that's true. That's true. And that was just something that when I go on stages, I do workshops. That's always my first question. Who in this room is a salesperson? And if everybody doesn't raise their hand, I say something about it. But here, let me go into the questions. Let's kick off with the NCG factor. What inspired it, and how does networking, connecting, and giving actually play out in the real world of business?
yeah, I think what inspired it was I reflected on my time back in the college days, right? Back when I went to college, because I'm very mature, not old, very mature. Back when I went to college, I didn't have the internet, right? I didn't have LinkedIn. I didn't have a cell phone. Everything was different back then. It was a different way of life. And back in my college days, it was about having fun. And I didn't think about serving on a charity board, a junior board, volunteering. It was all about Larry. It wasn't about other people. And I would say that things have changed a bit today. And so I guess when I go out today and I get the opportunity to speak at a university, I'm so excited. Not that I don't like presenting to senior level salespeople or CEOs or board members, and I've done all that, but I love meeting with the college kids because they really haven't been exposed to networking. They haven't been exposed to building authentic relationships. And that's the time I want to catch them. That's the foundation they could build that no one taught me about that. And I want to help them understand LinkedIn. I want to help them understand networking. The book, the NCG Factor, is networking, connecting, giving, but it's a different way to network. I believe the way you and I like to network, right? With authenticity, building relationships, not this social exchange of business cards. I think we're trying to get to know people, right? We're not just how many people can I meet at this event. I was like that. I was that guy. I love going to events and I just loaded my pockets with business cards. And if I came home empty, I thought, wow, this is great. Empty of mine and filled with other cards was a big win. That wasn't a big win. I wasn't getting to know people. And the connecting aspect, to me, I meet you today and I go, I know you were in the Air Force before. There's a friend of mine. I think you guys would align. He thinks like you. He was actually former Air Force. I think that way when I get to know people and I'll put people that have things in common or just they just have that match where I think they get along, they'd have a great conversation, potentially build a nice relationship. And the giving really is it's giving of your knowledge, like you do that in your talks, your podcast. Giving isn't always about donating to a charity or about how much money you donate. It's giving of yourself and your time and your knowledge. That's the way I think.
It's very true. And you hit on so many points that I wouldn't have time to discuss all of them. But do you believe, I believe, okay, let me start that way. I believe that ever since the pandemic, we have everybody relies on Zoom, on the cell phones. They forgot about this personal touch. And really, the days of building your customer list is gone. And the day of building relationships is here. So when I used to go, I was part of a mortgage company. I used to come home with a shoebox filled with business cards. They said, "Yeah, look how good I did." But did I do good? No, I didn't because I didn't have a relationship with any of them. So that's what I feel is the difference. Okay, so you talk about building authentic relationships. In a world full of noise and automation, how does someone actually do that without sounding scripted or salesy?
I think it's got to be one of those things where you really do want to build a relationship. When I meet with people, they know right away that I'm authentic, that I'm not there to, you said it earlier, show up and throw up. And too many people do that. And so I'd rather actually get to know the other person. I do some matchmaking too, and it works the same way in relationships, personal relationships. If you show up and throw up and you're not interested in the other person, you can't build a relationship. And I do think we are much more compassionate post COVID and we have to be more authentic. How do you do that? Look, some people, I'll be honest with you, some people may struggle. Some people that's just who they are. We can only do so much to guide people there. It's got to come from the heart. And you're going to know, you're going to be able to pick out that person that they're trying to be a little authentic, but they can't wait to sell you their product or service. They're like, so tell me where you're from. Oh, Air Force, that's great. By the way, let me tell you what I represent. I will talk to people and I could talk to them for an hour and they'll be like, Larry, you've asked all about me. I don't know anything about you. That's the best sales meeting that you could ever have because you
Absolutely.
learned about the other person. And it's interesting when you do that authentically, and people authentically want to know what you do and what you represent. And it does come back around. And if it doesn't, that's fine. Have another meeting. But you learn so much about that person to actually secure that next meeting.
That's right. That's right. When you go to a networking event or you're meeting somebody, you go with what's called a servant's heart. You go there looking to give, not receive. If everybody was going to go to a networking event or meet with somebody and they had that in mind, everything would be beautiful. because what, as you said, what goes around comes around, or at least it should. So if you put two people together and you refer two people, then one of those two people are going to say, you know what, Larry referred me. I have to find somebody for Larry. So what goes around does come around.
But you shouldn't expect it. If you're
Don't
building
never
authentic
expect it.
relationships, don't
Absolutely.
expect it. Don't expect it.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So you've said that we should stop showing up and throwing up when it comes to selling. What are some of the biggest mistakes professionals make when networking or pitching themselves?
One of the biggest mistakes is they do show up and throw up, which really means it's all about themselves. And so I met with an executive virtually, had a really nice 45-minute meeting. It was over 43 minutes, all about him. And it was challenging, but I'm a giver and I'm a good listener. And I'd ask questions, and he didn't know anything about me, not where I lived, if I had a relationship with anybody, if I had kids, what I did for a living. He knew nothing. I think I squeezed something in, and what I squeezed in was one ask that I have, can you read my book? And I have a chapter on takers never win. And he reached back out and wanted to have another meeting. And so we had that meeting, and I said, what do you want to talk about? He said, I wanted to talk about you because I realized that reading your book, it was all about me. And I want to make it about you. And showing up and throwing up, and some of the mistakes people make is they are too eager to talk about themselves. And I try to counsel people. It's better if I can learn all about Michael and what you do, what you personally, where you from, right? You can only go so deep, right? You don't want to get too personal, but hey, where'd you grow up? What'd you do? And guess what? On LinkedIn, everything's kind of fair game if it's out there. Hey, I saw this on LinkedIn. Can you tell me more about this? Or the great thing, you have AI, so you could pull up information about people. It's scraping, maybe double check. Hey, I saw this about you. It came up when I did some research. You better hope it truly is about that person because it says I'm a grandmaster chess champion, but that's the wrong Larry Kaufman. So be careful. I'm not that good at chess. But I think the mistake is we don't ask and listen. We just want to sell. Stop selling and start learning about the other person personally, professionally, and start to build a rapport and relationship. Everything's going to fall into place. So that's what I recommend.
I agree. I agree. And every time what I use personally is a word FORM. That keeps me in line. It's family, occupation, recreation, and a message. So when I'm talking to Larry, I can bring up family, what you do for a living, what you do, what you like to do, any of the above. And you'll start talking about it because when you start talking about yourself or things you enjoy besides work, you really start talking about it. And then your level of trust is going up and that barrier is coming down. Know you, like you, trust you, will do business with you. So, know you, well, of course, you're a great guy. Like you, we're going to narrow it down just a little bit. All right. Know you, like you, and then trust you. That trust is such a crucial factor that you have to build that trust. And the only way you're going to do it is I'm going to have you talk about yourself. So that's it.
I like that.
Okay. So, how do you balance giving without expecting while being strategic in business? Where's the sweet spot between generosity and growth?
And look, there's so many hours in a day. I'm in a corporate leadership role. So that's my primary focus. But I feel that the giving portion of what I do each week, it completes me, makes me feel good about myself. But sometimes that giving is with a prospective client of ours. My staff will come to me and ask me to help some of their prospective clients. And maybe it's a spouse, significant other, a child. It could be a career transition. It could be something else. And so that's some of that balancing act, right? That's tying into the business, and I'm still getting to give and help people. So I think when I do presentations, my presentations aren't geared all towards sales. It's really everything, but it's the main theme is building those relationships. And so there is a fine balancing act. And so, yeah, if I give every day and I don't do my job, yeah, I'll have a lot more time to give because I won't have my job.
But you'll have your job.
But I try to find ways to be giving during that course of each day with what I do that may be business related. It may be for my staff, for clients, it may be for other peers in the company.
Wouldn't you rather be known as a person who gives than a person who's always trying to receive, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Absolutely. So that should be first and foremost on the person's mind. Say, look, I want to be known. I want to be known as a connector. I want to be known because that's what I do. Every week, I have at least two people or two instances that I put two people together. This person needs that. Larry meet Keith, Keith meet Larry. He does this, you do this. I feel it's a great connection and I back away, right? And I let them do it. But I have to, if I do that at least twice a week, I know that I am connecting and I'm giving. And it's all, and I don't ask for anything in return. So it's just a way that you look at things.
You're like my twin.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us about a time when one powerful connection changed everything for you and what made that connection possible.
Really, there's so many. I think one powerful connection, we'll see how much time we have to talk about this. One powerful connection that changed a lot for me was actually with an executive I met in transition, was a CEO, and I met him in a coffee shop. I was actually with a gentleman who owned an executive search firm, and he said, "Hey, Larry, meet Mike." And he said, "Mike is looking for his next CEO role." I just met him, and we weren't sitting down with him. I just met him in passing. I said, "Mike, nice to meet you." And I said, "Mike, I'd love to get together separately to see how I could help you. And I know you would do the same thing, but not everyone thinks that way, but that's the way that I do." Well, Mike and I met a couple weeks later and we had a really good meeting, but I didn't know companies looking for a CEO. And so I tucked that away because sometimes you can't make that connection for someone right away, but you tuck it away and you think about it. It may come up at another time. I had met a founder of a company, a CEO of a company. It was like $100 million company. And we were talking, and he said, "I have this business issue. And it's out of my realm of expertise, but something that this CEO, when we got together, this other CEO looking for a job, he said something in our meeting, and it was a trigger when I was meeting with this founder of this company. I said, "You know what?" I said, "John, I'm going to connect you with my friend Mike. And I think he could deal with this issue with his this expertise. I think he's going to be able to help you out." And I connected them. So they met and they had a really good meeting because Mike called me and said, "Our meeting went for 6 hours. We had a great meeting and we ended up going to his company. We looked at his books. And next thing I know, Mike was hired to be the president of his $100 million company. So that gentleman's the CEO. Mike becomes the president. Well, Mike became a friend, he became a client. And Mike went through some change during that process and was going through a divorce. And I was helping someone network who was in private equity formerly, who was in human resources, and that person was widowed. Next thing I know, I put the two of them together to network, and I thought there was something there, and those two ended up in a relationship. And so Mike is continued to be a long-term friend. That was transformational for me. I helped someone that was in transition land a job that went from a running a 10, $15 million company to a $100 million company that became a $200 million company. And that's why he went back into transition. And then I connected him into a relationship. Long story, Michael, but great story.
Really was. It was really a great story. What does it mean to be indispensable in today's business world? And how does that tie into the way that we build and sustain relationships?
So, this is what I believe. You sell someone a product or a service, and there are competitors for your product or service. And they come to you for the things they need related to what you've sold them. That's great. But if they come to you for something else outside of what you sell and market, and they go, Michael, can you help me? My son is looking to get into medical school and is having trouble getting into this medical school. Could you help me out? Because I did help someone advance the process where they couldn't get any responsiveness, couldn't get into this medical school. So what I'm trying to say is if the company and person, the decision maker you have made a sale to, only calls you, reaches out to you for what you sell and market, you're not building a deep relationship. You're not becoming indispensable. But if you let them know up front, look, you know what? If you need anything outside of what I do, I want you to think of me as an indispensable relationship of yours. So it could be someone's in transition, any kind of need. It doesn't have to fall in line with what I do. And when you have those clients starting to call you and reach out to you for other things, you're deepening the relationship and you're becoming more indispensable. And so when that competing force knocks on the door to take the business away and they go, wait a minute, I work with Larry Kaufman. He helped my wife get a job. He helped my brother get a job. He helped us find a home over here. He did this. He got us, I couldn't find a good plumber, whatever it is. Larry is like my utility indispensable relationship. I don't care what you tell me. I'm not leaving Larry and his company. Become indispensable. And so indispensable to me is you are able to communicate that up front. I do that all the time, just myself, because I'm not in a sales role, in a leadership role. But the people I network with, I want them to know I'm indispensable. How can I be helpful to you and those around you? But I do that for my staff and team, and they know to come to me. And so I help them to become indispensable. You don't have to do it alone. You can have the Michaels and the Larrys who are connected and connectors to help you to become indispensable.
Very good. Very good. Because I suppose indispensable, you can look at it from the other side because those people become very loyal to you. And really, price point doesn't come into it because you're not asking for money. You're not asking for anything. You're only giving your time and your expertise and knowledge. And why not? Why not come back to you and say, hey, Larry, you know what? I have this problem. Could you help me? Yes. Either you can find somebody to help them or you can help them. But the answer to that person would be yes. So they
Yes.
always think to come back to you. Okay, so a lot of people struggle with networking on platforms like LinkedIn. What's one tip from LinkedIn Larry that can help people cut through the noise and connect with purpose?
Look, on LinkedIn, the people you're meeting with or want to meet with that are second degree to you, but the decision maker you'd like to meet with, I think it's important to see do you have any shared connections that could be the pathway to that person. You never know with your shared connections how people know people. And I had one that someone on my staff was trying to meet an executive, and I saw a lot of connections I shared in common with that executive. And so I said, let me check with my network and see if I can help to arrange an introduction or meeting for us with this executive at this big organization. I reached out to one person I knew, only one. I could have reached out to a lot. I just took a stab, reached out to one person. His name's Matt. And I said, Matt, how do you know Jeff at this company? He said, I'm interested in getting introduced. He said, oh, I went to college with him. We were roommates. We're friends today. We travel as couples, but I'm not going to introduce you. I said, what? I said, what's going on? He said, I'm going to call him and tell him he has to meet with you. How powerful is that, right? So I think figuring out who the shared connections are, but I also think a lot of people don't come prepared to a meeting and look at someone's profile. And I'm talking about all aspects of the profile. And some profiles are great, like yours, and some are not as great. But sometimes there's something that seems insignificant, but can be significant. So if I looked at someone's profile, nothing was there. I didn't have any shared connections. But the one thing I saw under the university said marching band. Most would ignore that, but I would say, Michael, and I know this is not on yours, Michael, what instrument did you play when you were in the marching band? And you would be like, what are you talking about? How did you know I was in the marching band? Because you probably put that in a long time ago when you signed up on LinkedIn, didn't even think about it because no one else is asking. But Larry asked, and you're never going to forget me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's those little things that you'll never be forgotten, especially with the follow up. And we're not even going to get into the follow up because I feel that the follow up with somebody is more important than actually even meeting them. But you do that something special, that's something so different than everybody else that, of course, they're going to remember you. And the way that you follow up with them, you always you're being top of mind. And I hate saying that top of mind, but that's the only thing I can think of right now. But if you do that one thing, and you'll always be remembered for that.
It's important.
Okay, so for someone just starting to grow their network, what's better, deepening a few relationship or casting a wide net? We probably covered this already, but let's have it.
I, casting a wide net is fine. For myself, look, I have roughly just under 30,000 LinkedIn connections. So it's people are looking at me and Larry's saying, don't cast such a wide net, right? I'll tell people, should you have 10,000 connections? I think you should have a strong network of people you trust. Even on a LinkedIn, depending upon your tenure in the business world, maybe it's 500, maybe it's 1,000, maybe it's 2,000. I'm not saying you'll know 2,000 exceptionally well, but enough to where they take a call, take a meeting with you. I think what you want to have is that know, like, trust relationship base. And so I think kind of keep it tight. In my book, I call it inner circle, outer circle. Your inner circle, yeah, they're your family. Sometimes your family really should be in your outer circle, but inner circle, the people that you really trust that will go the distance for you. And those could be people that they can be your clients. I have clients today that we have with a firm that I introduced to my staff that were clients of mine in the day. They're my inner circle, right? But I do have friends and family. So I think keep it tight. Keep it tight. You're not going to have 5,000 in your inner circle unless you're just amazing. I haven't seen that.
It's also a little difficult to keep up. Your inner circle you want to communicate with a little bit more often, but 5,000, 2,000, even 1,000, it's very hard to stay up with that. So you really have
Yeah,
to be careful on who you think is in your inner circle.
you're right.
But that's very good. Okay, how does being a strong networker carry over into your personal life with your family, friends, and your community?
I think what happens on when you get to the family side, and I'm a strong networker, connector, I do get our friends sending me their kids. And I had someone who was looking to get back into the dating scene after being widowed. And it's like, hey, could you have Larry fix me up? I'm ready. And so it's good and bad, but it's nice that I become that go-to, I built that reputation. And after I wrote the book, I did go on Facebook, now Meta, and I'm connected to friends there. And so they know, hey, let's ask Larry. So I've branded myself in the business world and carried it over into my personal world.
That's good. That's good. And that really answers it. Okay, so let's bring this podcast full circle. And if you could leave listeners with one mindset shift that would make their networking more meaningful and profitable, what would it be?
Let's just say, okay, mindset shift is don't make it about you, make it about the other person. And I'll share that with a question. And it sounds crazy, but I've done so many presentations and like you'll ask questions and I ask questions. And the one takeaway that people have told me quite a bit was these 5 words that they're not asking enough of or at all is how can I help you? And I can't tell you how many conversations I have with people. And I'm like, how can I help you? And sometimes I know because I've asked so many questions, I already know how I'm going to help them. Now it turns out I maybe add an extra word to like, how else can I help you? And no, I'm good. And I'm almost waiting for it just to see. They come back and go, Larry, I'm great. You're going to do X, Y, and Z for me. How can I help you? I can tell you it's probably 1 out of 10 people I'll talk to that will say that. And so if I could get more people to think that way and just ask the question, and some people are like, I don't know how I could help people. I don't have a big network. You know what? It's just throwing it out there, asking that question is more than enough that just people will say it. And everyone's to take you up on it. It's rare. And if someone does say something, you can try. It's rare that people ask, but I would love to see more people ask how can I help you every day.
That's that's great. And if people would actually learn to do that, again, that's giving, not receiving. And if you can, I'll leave you with this. One thing that I say to a person whenever I network with him or with a person or a few people, I always end with, how can I make you more successful? How can I make a difference? How can I be a great referral source for you? And I usually say that before I even tell them what I do. And they're usually so blown away by it. They're like, I don't even know what you do yet. That's all right. Just let me know. And then I'll go into the whole thing with the business cards and everything and writing on the back of the business card what to do and everything else. But I always let them know I am here for you. So what can I do to help
I love it.
you? Larry, this has been absolutely great, just the way I thought it was going to go. I just wish we had another hour because I have another 20 questions to ask you. But if anybody would like to get hold of you, either to be coached or to just to speak with you and get your feelings or philosophy on networking, how could they do it?
So definitely on LinkedIn. So Larry Kaufman in Chicago, all caps. So you can find me there. I would say check me out on Amazon with the NCG factor. That's a way to get to know me. And guess what? I know it sounds crazy, but in my book, I put my contact information. So I know I get a lot of crazy people coming after me, but hopefully some normal people will come after me too.
Hopefully, hopefully. Larry, I can't begin to thank you enough for coming on my podcast. I think that you are a wealth of knowledge, and I'm so glad to see there's somebody else out there, such as myself, that believes in your NCG.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on your podcast, Michael, and nice to meet someone that thinks the way that I do.
Well, hold on, folks. Don't go anywhere. Let's hear from our sponsors. David Neal, co founder, Revved Up Kids. Revved Up Kids is on a mission to protect children and teens from sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking. They provide prevention training programs for children, teens, and adults. To learn more, go to revvedupkids.org. Henry Kaplan, Century 21. When it comes to making the biggest financial decision of your life, leave it in the hands of a proven professional, Henry Kaplan. Henry is a global real estate agent with Century 21, celebrating his 41st year in business. No matter where you're moving, Henry has the right connections for you. You can contact Henry at 561 427 4888. They provide prevention training programs for children, teens, and adults. To learn more, go to revvedupkids.org. That's REVVEDUPKIDS.org. A huge thank you to our guest for sharing such incredible insights today. And of course, a big shout out to you, our amazing listeners, for tuning in and spending your time with us. If you're interested in my digital courses, being coached, or having me come and talk to your company, just go to Michael and fill out the request form. Remember, networking isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. So take what you've learned today, get out there, and make some meaningful connections. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little networking inspiration. Let's keep the conversation going. You can find me on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, or my website, forman.com/podcasts.